Hey guys, so there was an update for the Shadow of War cheat engine, and as promised, I am going to make this video about how to edit and create somewhat orcs in Shadow of War. Now, this is the same method I used to create the fortress in the video in the prior video I made a few weeks back. I'll link it down in the description if you haven't seen it. Pretty much the video is I brought many of the important orcs from Tier of Grace's Shadow of Mordor series into Shadow of War, and right now I'm going to lead you through how I did that. Now, to begin, I'm going to treat it as if the person watching this right now has no idea how the cheat engine works, so I'm just going to start from the beginning, the download, installation, everything. Now, normally you'd click download cheat engine and it'd start downloading, and right now I'm going to lead you through the process of installing it. This is what would pop up right here, Cheat Engine 67. Now, if you have an antivirus, it may detect the cheat engine itself as a virus. It may say that it's something that can harm your computer. It is not. Sometimes things can piggyback off of it, so once you install it, other things may get installed. I'm not sure if that's the case for this current version of the cheat engine, but I remember the last one I downloaded, it was not optional, but there was ways to remove it, the things that piggybacked off of it, I mean. But the way to make sure that your computer doesn't delete it, or to make sure that the cheat engine itself is safe from being taken off your computer, is if you have an antivirus like Malwarebytes, add the file itself to exclusions so that it leaves this alone. Even though it may detect it as a virus, it leaves it alone because you specifically told it that it is a safe file. Now, I'm going to go ahead and lead you through the installation. That blew my eardrums out. Just go ahead, accept everything. Except for one thing coming up here. This right here. No. No. And there you go. Now that you have the cheat engine installed, what you need to do is download the Shadow of War cheat table by Sakura. If you just search on Google Shadow of War cheat engine, it's the first thing that pops up. I'll also link it down in the description if you want to make sure it's the right one, or for whatever reason. But you will go down and you will download the most recent version. Right now it's version 19. If you're watching this at a later time, it might be a different version if it gets updated again. You'll just click on it and it downloads automatically. I already have mine downloaded to desktop, so I'm just going to delete this, but you can move it wherever you like. Now, to just begin with the basics of the cheat table, once you've launched Shadow of War, make sure you open up the table. Once the table's open, go ahead and select Shadow of War as the process for it to operate with. Yes. And I go ahead, you can do this however you like. You can do this once you've entered the game, but I prefer to do it beforehand so everything's loaded. It's really up to you, but it seems to work better when I do it this way for some reason. Maybe it's just a placebo. I go ahead and activate the master script and the Uruk pointer. This is what you'll be using to edit everything for the most part. And once those are activated, I go ahead and start the game. And everything should load.
We are coming. We are coming for you.
Now once you're in the game, you should be able to hover over any orc you want, and it will display the traits, the name, everything about the orc. So let's begin with, just to use this as an example, I'm going to start with Booth the Legend. Now, once you get into the Uruk pointer, it'll show you everything about the orc. It says the level here, the name, and the status. Dominated bodyguard dead is in. If you want to set him to the bodyguard, go ahead and set it as that trait is 1. Say there's an orc you don't have, or an orc that you do have, and you want him to be hostile to you without going through the process of casting him out of your army. you just go ahead and set that value to 0, and it automatically turns an orc either, if it's set to 1, they're friendly. If it's set to 0, it automatically turns them hostile. So just to demonstrate, let's try Takra of the Hand. Right now he's dominated, so that is set to 1. Go ahead and set that to 0, and he will be hostile. Same thing goes with Bodyguard, Dead, everything else. If you set the value to 1 for Dead, then he'll be dead. If you set to 0, it will bring him back to life if he already is dead. So for example, if he was dead, since he's dead, if I wanted to set him as alive again without resurrecting him, you can just set the value to 0 and instantly will act as if he never died in the first place. Everything else in this is kind of not necessary for what we're going to be doing. Additional properties. This has to do with the role, the class, and everything about the orc. As in, this guy's an archer. He's in the Dark Tribe. This is his. It says role, but it's pretty much like the second part of his name. Once again, the class. Personality. This has to do with how they, what's their personality? And orc rarity. Whether they're common, epic, or legendary. You can change all that. And just to continue, equipment looks. This is if you want to change the looks of them. There are different faces. Say you want a specific face. Everything in the nature. If you want to put different wounds on him. Sakura actually added a wound category rather recently. That wasn't there before. But it's more helpful that that's added now. This just pretty much everything changed with looks there. Marker abilities. These are some of the abilities, such as he's set as a marksman, which, as you can see right here, maybe to go ahead and demonstrate that better, we'll get off. Okay, see, this guy's a berserker. So, specialization, specialization, berserker. He has a curse status effect. He's common, learn speed slow. You can change all this, so if you say wanted him to have a different learn speed, you'd set it as very fast. Now, that wouldn't go ahead and go into effect because you'd have to change it in a few different places. Main important places, picker abilities. This right here is where pretty much you're going to be able to change all the abilities of your orc. The resistances he has, the fears he has, different hates he has, traits, all of these, everything here will be able to be changed here. This may seem kind of convoluted as of right now, but if you honestly just play around with it a little bit, play around with learning the different things, it's really not that complicated. For example, the resistances, if you want to change one, say he's vulnerable to stealth, you want to make him immune, you just set it as immune. Same thing goes for ranged, everything, but you'd have to change it where it is. For example, you wouldn't want to put beast immune, then also beast vulnerable in two different places. They'd conflict and it kind of mess up. Make sure nothing kind of conflicts, as in you wouldn't want to have a curse weapon and a poison weapon. You want to make sure that none of the traits would conflict, because that might lead to some abnormalities with your orcs. Now that I've briefly explained what you can expect to see in the table, even though I didn't go too in-depth into it, I'm going to tell you one of the most important things to know when doing this is that anytime you change anything, as far as abilities go, as far as name, role, anything, for example, say I wanted to change him to immune to ranged. Let's make this guy immune to ranged. Now that I changed that, it doesn't go into effect immediately. Even though it is changed, it will not appear in his abilities, and he will not demonstrate that he even holds that immunity. What you have to do to make sure that it saves is you have to either fast travel, or some people say change different types of gear for your character. I just prefer to fast travel just to be safe. That's the way that it has always worked for me. And then once you've fast traveled, you have to quit out of the game, and go back into it. Now, you don't have to do this for one trait at a time. You can change 40 traits on an orc, then fast travel and come back into it, and it'll work just the same. You don't have to go one by one. If so, this would be a much more time wasting process, but thankfully it's more efficient. You can honestly change everything about every orc in the map in fast travel and X, and it'll save it all, or at least it should. Now that I check him, it should show he is now arrow proof. Since I've gone over how to save and the changes you've made to orcs and how to make the changes, at least the basics of it, I'm going to begin by showing you the first method I use to create orcs from Tier of Grace's series, or just create any orcs you'd like. For example, proc. This is the method I used for proc, Krook, Ronk, and a few others, because the fact these have to do with names that are already in the game. Certain names have been taken out of Shadow of War for some reason from Shadow of Mordor. Names including Pigug, Feldouche, I think Horhog, I'm not 100% sure. Ukram. There was a guy here. I know that for a fact. He died. I don't know how. But Noruk, Ishkra, all these names have been taken out of Shadow of War, and the only way to get these is through the Nemesis Forge. I'll go over that later because that takes a lot longer. But right now, this is the easier method to get orcs with names already in the game. Now, what you're going to need to do is first begin with the spawn options. I know I didn't go over this yet, but the spawn options is how you spawn a specific role of orc. For example, if you want to spawn Giggles orcs, if you want to spawn Jaws orcs, you set the role right here to whatever you like. For example, if you want Jaws, you can find it in here. Giggles, you can find it in here. Any orc name you want, you can find it in here. The class itself, you can change whether you want it to be a berserker, an archer, any of those. Spawn rarity, you can set to legendary or epic, I guess. No common, but I guess that's already set. And spawn, I don't mess with any of this. You can if you'd like to, but it's not necessary. Now, I usually, for what I'm doing right now, I've been asked to create Roog the Gluttonous, so I'm going to go ahead and add him into the game. Now, you'd think you'd want to set the role to Gluttonous, but I'm setting it to Reaper because the fact that Roog the Gluttonous has burns on his face. And for some reason, certain orcs, for example, let's just do the Deathbone. If you go into his equipment and looks and then go to wounds, he doesn't have any wounds, so there's nothing to replace. You'd have to add wounds to him, and that's a lot more in-depth than just going ahead and changing wounds that are already there. So, for this example, I use the Reaper, because the fact, for some reason, the face paint they have is considered a wound, so you can just change that into anything you want. Say you want burns, baghead, any of the above. And you can just go ahead and change that, and then change the name, the second name, whatever you want to, and go ahead and set that as the orc you want. Now I'm going to begin with the fight pits. There are two different methods you can do it through, the loot boxes or the fight pits. There are pros and cons to each, but with the fight pits you can just go fight pit to fight pit and find different ones. See, that's Posh. Right now I'm looking for the name Roog, and you can just go to each one and just check to see if they have the name. If it doesn't, you can exit out and come back into it. That's Urgram. This is a bit lengthier of a method, but there's no cleanup involved. Whereas with the loot boxes, it's a lot quicker because you can continually open them, but there's a large cleanup involved if it takes a while. For example, you would need, once you hit 300 orcs in the garrison, you have to start deleting them because there's no more space. So that means at some point I'm going to have to go through and delete most of these. But as of right now, I would just say just to show you how it works, you can just buy 5, for example. And once you open these up, once you have the, of course, once you have the spawn set to Reaper, or whatever you like, just go through Zathra or Bennu. You just keep going until you find the one you want. Right now I'm looking for Roog. That's Flog. That's Ashgarn. Now, I was just showing that as an example. I already have a Reaper named Roog that I'm going to use as an example for this demonstration. If I can find him. There he is. Now that we have Roog, I'm going to go ahead and change his face paint into a burn scar. You can find it in here. There are a ton of different scars you can choose from if, say, you didn't want one of those. I'm going to go ahead and choose left face 1. And I will change his name to the Gluttonous. I will also deploy him in the world right now so that everything saves, because sometimes when I edit it in the cloud of the garrison, it doesn't save correctly. So I like to do it in the world. You can do it in the garrison, but I don't know, sometimes it doesn't save properly. As of right now, he now has the burn scar, and his name is Roog the Gluttonous. Now that he's displayed in the army screen, I will go ahead and change his appearance. I will change him into a savage or a berserker orc in a bit, but currently what I'm doing is just changing his appearance as far as it goes as attire. So I already put berserker shoulders on him. That's not what's on him right now. It hasn't saved yet. But for the rest of him, I'm going to put berserker chest on and berserker arms. And I think he has Combat Master legs and boots. So that's what I'm currently going to do. And if you would like a certain piece of armor to not be present, all you would need to do is change it to IT empty. Say for example I'm doing head. If you would like chest, arms, any of the example, you'd set it to IT empty that. IT empty head. SMP empty set. And then AD. Empty whatever you want. Right now I'm doing head. And then once you do the fast travel and save, it should work. I'm now back from saving and everything's saved properly as it should. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color of his skin and the paint on him, because he did have some white paint and he had kind of a green color skin, pretty much the same thing as Proc. So I went ahead and brought Proc down right next to him just so I can easily show you how to make things easier. You can go one by one and change the color of his skin by finding an orc with the same thing as him. But what I'm going to do, pretty much you can do it this way. You can either copy each one by one, and paste it into here, or you can go ahead and just check everything that you would like to bring over, and this makes it a lot easier. And then you just go over, and there you go, it's copied. Make sure you uncheck these though, because if you do not, any orc that you scroll over, when that's checked, it will also change it for them. For example, if that was still checked and I scrolled over Ukram, all of his color schemes would change to the same thing as Proc. So make sure that if you check those, you only do it for the orc that you want to. Once you get it on the orc you want it to, uncheck everything. I'm going to go ahead and change his face now, and there are plenty of different faces to choose from. I know you don't know which face is which right now. Honestly, the only way to know is you just play around with them, look at different ones, and see which one's the closest to what you're looking for. And there are different faces for different body types. There's stocky, which is the fatter orcs. There's slimmer orcs. And there's buff for the buff. It's self-explanatory. And also same thing for Ologs. But currently the one I looked, and the one that's closest to what Rug had, was Head 1 CO6. So I'm going to save real quick and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. I'm back, and after further review, CO5 actually looked a bit closer than CO6, but nonetheless it doesn't matter. Now what I'm going to do is change him from a infantry type of orc to a berserker or a savage orc. So the first thing that I would need to do is go into the additional properties, change his AI to maybe under savage or berserker, and actually the tribe that gluttonous orcs are in is marauder, so I'll also go ahead and do that. So change that. He is a berserker. And I'll just leave that as it is. Tags, let's see if there's anything in here that, nope. Sometimes it'll have something in there that would relate to their class, but not in this case. Marker abilities, here we go. These are the abilities as far as this will affect somewhat what they'll be. So class marker infantry, change that to savage. And I'll just leave all that as of right now. And then the picker abilities, this is what we'll have to do with the main things right here. And it also has some hidden abilities in the background that I'll need to be changing because that has to do with the class he has. For example, once I find it. Heavy attack infantry, since he's not infantry anymore, he won't have that. Heavy attack berserker, base strength infantry, change that to base strength savage. And base strength assassin. I'll be changing him into a different thing later, but as of right now, because the assassin relates to, it says cursed dark assassin. He's an assassin. Tribe attack dark, change that to marauder. And I believe that's it. Let me just go over it one more time just to make sure. Yeah. And one more thing is going to the equipment. This has to do with the type of weapons he has. For the weapons, you'll need to change it to orc. This is these are the weapons you'll be looking for right here, because it says ×2. That means that it'll have 2 of the weapons, aka savage orcs. So I believe he has the studded axes. Same thing goes for this. Studded axe. Throwing axe infantry. Go ahead and change that to throwing axe berserker. And that's the same for right there. And there we go. After I save, it should transform him into a now savage orc. After saving, he's now a marauder and a berserker orc. So now I'm going to change him from an assassin to a slayer orc, because I went and I watched the Shadow of Mordor series, all the episodes that he's in. So, and he had an ability, triple strike, and he had a few different abilities that would insinuate that if he was brought into Shadow of War, he would be a slayer. So now I'm going to go ahead and change him from an assassin to a slayer. Under this, it's considered combat master, but it does the same thing. Since there's no slayer here, it's considered combat master. So I'm just going to go ahead and change. This is under marker abilities. You change those two. There might be more specialization probability, but make sure that specialization is combat master or whatever you're looking for. And now into picker abilities, you're going to need to change all the ones that, like for example, assassin. I'm going to go ahead and change all the assassin abilities to now combat master. So for example, base strength assassin, change that to base strength combat master. And an assassin ability, for example, is no chance. So I'm going to go ahead and give him now triple strike, which under here I think is called multi-attack. I believe so. Either that or, yeah, I think it's multi-attack. And now I'm going to save real quick, and he should change into a slayer. He's now a slayer and has gained the ability triple strike, and as it shows, advanced class slayer. He also has throwing knives, which is an assassin ability, but I'm going to change that, and I will change a bunch of his other abilities. So a few other abilities that he had were, after he died and came back to life with the burning, he developed the fear of burning. In the beginning, he had a gang of savages that followed him around and also had the same white paint as him. He has a jump attack, and he's a fast runner. So those are the main ones that I'm definitely going to add real quick. But there are a few other things I'll have to add since there are so many different abilities you can add and choose from. So I'll give him some things that seem like it would fit his character best, and I will be back once I've done so. now that I've edited some of his abilities, I'm going to show you how to edit his immunities. So pretty much everything that says pick or resist, you can either pick a certain thing, then pick immune or resistant or any of the above. So for example, he is combat resistant, which means that he takes some damage from combat finishers, but not a whole ton. Combat vulnerable, that would put it in his vulnerabilities, which means he's heavily damaged by, that would be combat attacks. And then mortal vulnerable means he can be insta-killed by them. And of course there's also immune, which makes him where it doesn't even work on him. Now I'm going to do the thing that's pretty much common for most orcs in Shadow of Mordor, which is they were immune to stealth, immune to ranged, and immune to beasts. So stealth immune, ranged immune, and beast immune. Now I will also, I guess I'll let him keep the poison and the curse immune. Those were already there. I guess I'll let him keep those. And yeah, I guess everything else kind of checks out. And I'll be back once I am done saving. Now he's almost finished. The last two things I'm going to do is change his level and make him legendary. So to change the level, that's very simple. You change the level and then set it to, if you wanted to be max level, you set it as one level under what it would be, so 59. That will now set it to 60, whereas it was 56 before, it's considered 57. Now it'll be 60. And how to make him legendary is you go into his additional properties, change the orc rarity to legendary. Changes, not in this equipment looks, I don't believe. Marker abilities, orc rarity, legendary. It might be in there twice, in which case put it both times. Pick our abilities. Orc rarity, legendary. And now all I need to do is put 2 legendary abilities on him. So I need to find something I would want to replace, or you can always add more abilities. That's a bit more complicated, and I can get into it, but first I'm just going to replace 2 abilities. So for example, Hating Shadow Strike, I'll go ahead and replace that with Picker ET. ET is epic trait. So all these are different epic traits I can pick. I'm going to go ahead and give him Great Strength, and I need to find another ability to replace. I guess I'll replace Sneaky with another epic trait, which will be maybe an elite gang, since that means that it will carry his color scheme to them. Now I just need to save, and I will be back, and it should register that he's now legendary. Now, as you can see, he is legendary, and he has 2 epic traits. So the only other thing that I would want to do with him would be to change his personality, but as it stands, his personality that was already set is the one that he already is, so that's convenient. It makes where I don't have to go back in and do it. But if I did need to change the personality, there are a bunch of different ones. Personality is pretty much their voice, how they act, their mannerisms, all those sorts of things. And there are the regular ones, such as the professional. There's brutes. I think one of the brutes is like Krook. One of the professionals is Giggles, Feldouche Giggles. And then there's the special ones, which would be like Drunk, Singer, things of that nature, ones that aren't normal. And then there's the damaged ones, like there's Teeth Chatter, Screams, Creepy I think this one's Proc, and a bunch of different ones. These you get from shaming them, pretty much. And I think that's about it for changing the abilities. Now that I've shown you how to get orcs with names already in the game, I'm going to show you how to get orcs with names that are not in the game. Names such as Pigug, Feldouche, all the names I've already been over. And I'm sure there are plenty more I haven't been over. With this method, we use the Nemesis Forge from Shadow of Mordor. So, I'll see you once I've booted up Shadow of Mordor. Since you now have Shadow of Mordor booted up, you're going to need to go into the save slots, select a random game. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this one. So it's an empty game slot, and I'm going to do the Nemesis Forge. Now, when you click on this, what you're going to be looking for in the army screen is you're going to be looking for an orc with the name you're looking for and the correct body type. So right now I'm looking for an orc named Hosow, and he needs to be buff. There are 3 different body types: skinny, more buff, and then there's fat. I'll show you the difference in game. Hopefully I'll find Hosow. If not, then I'll just reforge the Nemesis Forge until I finally find him. So, what I would normally do is just go into the army and just look for the one that I'm looking for. For example, his name's Malmoog. I'm looking for one named Hosow. It just needs to be the first name. It doesn't need to be Hosow continued with what else you're looking for, just the first name. So if you're looking for, say, Feldouche Giggles, you'll just need to find an orc named Feldouche. That's convenient. For example, let's just go ahead and use this as an example. His name's Feldouche. Feldouche is a more buff orc, so this would be perfect if you were looking for Feldouche Giggles, because you can edit all of that, his other name and all of his looks, everything else in Shadow of War. The only thing you can't really edit is his first name. So, I am looking for Hosow. I will see you once I finally find what I'm looking for. So, as you can see, I found an orc named Hosow, and he does indeed have the buff body type. And while I'm here, I'll also go ahead and make this guy my ally that I bring over. His name's Kaka the Destroyer. The reason why I'm bringing him over is because there was an orc in Tear of Grace's series named Kaka the Biter, who was also had this same body type. So I'll go ahead and bring him over, just make it 2 orcs in the same run. So I'm going to go ahead and make this guy my nemesis. Even though it says he is, I still want to die to him just to be safe. And I'm going to go ahead and brand this guy real quick, and I will be back. Now that I have Hosow and Kaka, I'm going to switch back to Shadow of War, and I'm going to start a new game. Now before I start a new game in Shadow of War to get those new orcs, I'm going to go ahead and move my save game, my current save game in Shadow of War, to a different location. Go ahead and copy and paste it there, so that once this is overwritten, I can retrieve the save file afterwards, and it's not just gone forever. So for you to figure out where your save game is, you just go into your program files, your Steam, your user data, Steam ID, and I believe this is what Shadow of War is under, remote, and your save game will be right there. And go ahead and copy and paste it wherever you want to, just so you can retrieve it at a later time. Now this is where the lengthier part of this method is going to come into play, as you're going to need to start a new game, and as you can see, I've already deleted the data from my last game since I have it backed up. Once you start a new game, you're going to need to play until you reach the arena where you will find your nemesis, and after that, spoilers, you're going to need to play until you get to the point where Bruise has taken your fortress, where you will find your follower. Once you find those 2, your work for the most part is done, but there are a few more things to do that I'll get to after you've done that. But as of right now, I need to play through the game until I reach the arena, and I'll see you then. So the arena section has now been complete. Pashu lies dead right now, and even though it's almost guaranteed he'll come back to life, as most nemesis that you bring over do, I'm just going to make 100% certain of it by just bringing him back from the dead, by making it as if he never died in the first place. Now, when I fast travel and exit, he will be back alive as if nothing ever happened, and I will then save him for once I unlock the branding ability. So I'll be back. Now I've completed the quest to get Kaka back, and I will show you how I get him into the other save with all my other orcs. I'm just going to give him the training order of sending him to the garrison. Now that he's in the garrison, I'm also going to real quick go get Hosow, who should be in Minas Morgul. Now that I have Hosow, I'm going to go ahead and command him as well and send him to the garrison. Now that they are in the garrison, they are stored in the cloud, which means pretty much they can be transferred across saves. So I can bring these guys into my other save. So I'll see you once I've replaced this save game with my old save game. I'm just going to show you how you would restore your save game to the original one you had before. Just the one that you copy and pasted. Go ahead and just copy that again and replace that current file with the original one. Since now the orcs are saved in the cloud, you should be able to bring them over through the garrison. Now that I'm back to my main save, I'm going to go ahead and place my 2 new people into the army screen. And for Kaka. Now I will make a few adjustments and turn them into the characters they're supposed to be, and I will see you afterwards, because I have not done my research on what abilities they should have, so this may take a while for me to watch all the videos on what they should have. So it's been about a day or so, but I have now completed editing Hosow the Blue and Kaka the Biter using the same method I did to edit Roog, and I also added Nakra the Red just to make it the red and the blue. So I'll let you take a look at the finished product. Hopefully most of you found this tutorial helpful, and if not, I'd be more than willing to help answer questions in the comments below. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.